Hey guys, how's it going? Welcome. This is going to be an interesting day because we're going to be implementing controllers and presenters. We got some messages in the chat. Let's check them out. Digital Alchemist, how's it going? Excited for this one. I'm just now starting to understand this, and I think controllers and presenters is exactly what I need right now to get a better understanding. That's good. Yeah, playing around with Buffet as well. Very clean UI. I like it. Yeah, thanks. Let me know if you, let me know if you like Buffet. It's still not out, like officially released. I have a really good list with like a to-do list, a checklist before I actually push it live, and I got a lot of items. I'm not sure you can see this, but like check it out. Yeah, it's probably flipped. But I have a whole list to go through um, before I actually release it. So yeah, it'll be fun. And good morning as well. Yeah. All right. So my man still writes on paper. I love it. Yeah, yeah. Paper has never been out. It was just dormant. Yeah. I figured, I'm starting to forget how to write, so let me just back up and use pen and paper again. All right, yeah. Let's dive in. Let me share you the eraser link, because this is where we did the like all of the stuff, all of the notion, all of the knowledge that we accumulated by looking at clean architecture and stuff. Pen and paper beats Figma. True, yeah, except in this case, I could have done this on pen and paper, but wasn't, I couldn't share this with you. So yeah, in this case, I am sticking to this one. And I feel like, um, diagrams are better if they're digital, because I'm going to make a lot of mistakes. So yeah, what happened last stream, and that's actually on my to-do for this stream, is to showcase the changes that I made during the weekend. I did some refactoring. And we should also recap the interface adapters layer, because that is the new layer, this one right here, the new layer that we added in the previous stream. We figured that, in Next.js apps, maybe for simpler apps, we can avoid it. But again, when we actually understood the point of use cases better, we realized that we cannot actually get rid of the controller layer or the interface adapters layer. So we ended up bringing it back along with some other stuff. So yeah, I need to recap that. And then we're going to refactor to achieve controllers and presenters, right? So that is the interface adapters layer. And what this basically holds are just controllers and presenters. So to recap, previously we had everything in use cases, but use cases, they must have a single responsibility, right? Create link use case should just create a link and put it into the database and return it back. We had a situation where we were creating a link, but when we pass the collection property, it was also added to the junction table, the relationship table. And we did that inside of the use case, but that should not be the case, right? Create link should not add it to a collection. That should be a different use case altogether. So that's why we thought, okay, use cases should do only one thing. If create link use case exists, it should just create a link. And don't worry about anything else. If we want to add an existing link to an existing collection, we have a different. We're gonna build a different use case for that. And in order for that to happen, we're gonna need to invoke two use cases. For example, in that scenario, create a link with a collection, right? First, it's going to be the create link use case, and then it's going to be the add link to collection use case, right? We have two use cases. If those two use cases need to be invoked, previously they would have been invoked in the web UI, because we didn't have this layer, right? Controllers and presenters. Web UI used use cases directly, so we were just going to invoke those two use cases inside of the web UI. But that's still part of the logic, right? It is a logic that adds a link to a collection, but it also creates the link. So the thing that orchestrates the thing that orchestrates these use cases is called a controller. That's it. So because we want to test the flow as well, the orchestration and everything, because we want to test that, we need to get it out of this layer, of the web UI layer. We have to get it out, put everything, in controller. So the web UI layer, it just invokes a controller. And we initially thought that controllers are mutations and presenters are queries. Not true. There's always controllers. Controllers are the start of the operation flow. And, from the web UI, you go into the controllers. The controller orchestrates multiple use cases as it needs. And then before it returns the value, it passes it through a presenter. That's what's happening right here. And I also outlined this little part of the flow, just like isolated it. First, for example, let's say the get collection controller. This is for rendering a collection page, right? Get collection controller, we invoke it, then the controller itself will use the get collection use case. It'll return a result. Whatever happens down, we don't care, right? This one returns a result. If the controller is satisfied, it'll just, pass it to the presenter. The presenter will return data that is suitable for the UI, and then we will return that data to the page or server action or whatever the invoker is, right? So that's how the controller and presenters work, basically. Controller is, controller is going to be like control in, but just before it returns, it's going to go to the presenter and then back and then return it. That's why these things exist. So yeah, controller and presenter. That's all. It's not controllers. We don't use controllers when we want to change stuff. We use them all the time. Controllers orchestrate use cases. Whether we write to the database or delete or update, doesn't matter. We always have a controller, and just before we return the results, we just pass it through a presenter. And this is good because the presenter will care of the data that, cares of the shape of the data and the type of the data that's being returned. For example, you might have some properties that you don't want to pass back. You might have properties in the table that you don't want to end up in the at the browser. Maybe you have in some cases you could have like an ID that you don't want to pass because you're just rendering things, so you're not passing the ID. The standard, hashed password type of thing. You don't want to return the hashed password if you're, rendering the user profile and you just return the whole user, then the client, the browser, will receive the hashed password as well. You don't need that. So the presenter will take care of that. That's one case. The other scenario where you also want to use a presenter is to convert, dates, right? Or some objects into string representations just for rendering. Maybe you have maybe you have a name, but the name or an address, right? But on the UI, you actually render it as a string, right? One label, one text element is there. It renders whatever the value is. But in order, to have that, maybe your name or your address is, constructed using multiple properties in the database. You have an address number, you have an apartment number, or whatever it is. You have a zip code, you have a city, you have a state, province, country, whatever. And if you render that as one string only, you don't want to execute JavaScript on the client just to put those two together, right? Why not just pass it to a presenter? The presenter will do that for you on the server. So when you return back, you only return a string. And there's no JavaScript involved into constructing that, right? The browser will immediately render because it has the value. And that is really good for performance, right? Because you're not executing JavaScript to show something on the screen, right? You get it, you slap it on the screen, that's it. So that's why presenters are a good idea, right? Yeah, in this episode, we're going to do this too, because we don't have anything. In my case, my project had use case classes. So I had a collection use cases, right? And those were classes, and they used container injection. And let me show you what the container injection is. Let's go to infrastructure. Let's try services maybe. No, not here. Nope, I don't actually. Yeah, I don't have any container injection to show you, but basically it was something like this: inject id variable type. So I was using my dependency injection container to automatically inject those things for inside of the constructor, so I can use them below. And that meant that I also needed to register every use case inside of the suitable modules. But then I was like, okay, if use cases are, they do only one thing and one thing only, so that it's like easier to test, then I need to split all of them into individual files, right? Individual things, not like a use cases class that you instantiate and then you invoke the specific use case, but just like pure functions, right? Not pure functions, but just like isolated functions. And I was like, okay, if I still keep them, if I still keep them as classes, then I would have to register them in the DI container because I'm using the container in constructor injection in all of them, and it's just gonna be tedious. I don't actually need to register use cases inside of the DI container because use cases don't change implementation, right? They don't change implementation. We don't need to abstract away their implementation and use them as interface. That's when you use that's when you use a DI container. When you want to say, I'm interacting with an interface, I don't care what the implementation is. The DI will bring the implementation to me. In this case, we don't care about abstracting away the implementation from the definition, from the interface. And that means we can keep them as classes. Not as classes, but as functions. If we keep them as functions, we don't need to register them in the DI. The only thing that we need to do, let me show you, is to use the get injection method that we built to just obtain whatever injection we want to obtain. In this case, it's the authentication service, but then a bit below, we also have the collections repository, right? So give me the authentication service, whichever is registered, the production or the test one, and get me the user, right? And then get me the collections repository, and then use it to create a collection. Here's the collection, here's the user, here's the fingerprint that we obtained from NanoID. And the create collection, the collections repository, it should know how to create the collection. And then we'll just return it. This can throw errors, and we'll catch them. And this can also throw errors, and we'll catch them. But we don't throw anything here because the use case, maybe in this case, I don't know. We'll see if we need to throw errors. Oh yeah, there we go. Yeah, we do need to throw errors. Use cases handled authorization as well. So check this out. Give me the authentication service, give me the user, and this, because this is delete collection use case, we can't let users delete other users' collections, right? So that's when we do the check. Is this collection yours, created by you? No, well then you can't delete it. The reason is unauthorized. And this is a this is a good use case that is implemented by the book, right? It uses the AI to get all of the services and repositories that it needs. It performs some authorization checks to see, to make a decision. Am I going to allow this operation to be invoked by this user? And that is the use case, the use case's responsibility. And then if it does, if it's okay, it performs what it needs to perform, which is a single thing, delete the collection, right? And then it just returns whatever. In this case, we can return anything, but we can just say, okay, cool. If it doesn't throw and it passes, that means it's successful. That's like API design, right? And it doesn't matter. You can return it if you want. If you want to show like collection XYZ deleted successfully, you can return it. If not, yeah, so it's all on you. So that's what's going on, right? What I actually did, and let me hide my face there. What I actually did is refactor all of those classes that I had into individual use cases, and check them out. We have a whole bunch of files here. So all of these do only one thing, right? There we go, delete link. Give me the user. Is this your link? Nah, throw. Is this your link? Yeah, okay, delete it. See, in this case, we just say delete link and we don't return anything because I set the promise to be a promise of void in this case, and you can see that I don't have consistency in handling the things, but yeah, that's something that I need to refactor later, but it's no big deal. Doesn't actually, there we go, same thing. Give me the user, because this is the create. This also checks for authorization. So authentication, not authorization. So for example, let me bring my face back. For example, if we're not authenticated, right, just gonna throw. It'll just say you're not logged in, so you can't create a link. You are logged in? Sure, go ahead, create it. If I had a pricing in place, if this was a SaaS or a product that also handled money and permissions, etc., I would handle user type permissions here. If it's free versus paid, right? That's when you do it. First, check if it's authenticated. If the user is authenticated, then you know who they are. Check about their actual permissions, right? Maybe they're a free user, and the most links that you allow for free users is 15. That's when you do the check here. And that's when you throw again if you can't permit that user to perform this operation, right? So that's what's happening here. That's what's happening here. Otherwise, just create it and return it. So we have all of these all of these use cases, and we need to orchestrate these use cases, right? We need something to use the use cases, individual use cases, to define an operation flow, right? Currently, that's all being done inside of the app. For example, if we go to the let's go to the collections and actions. These are all of the server actions that I'm using inside of the Next.js app to perform these actions, right? So here it is, right? This is the create collection. This also checks for authentication. And I feel like we're going to just delete this. And I also feel like we might end up removing ZSA altogether because we made a decision that we are going to handle authentication inside of the controllers, right? Was that the case? Let's go to the documents. Just put both here so that we can see the document on the left. Use cases handle authorization checks because they define individual operations, and authorization checks are performed against a specific operation. Yeah, but let's see. Controllers handle input validation. That makes sense before passing it on to the specific use cases. That makes sense, but who handles the authentication checks? I believe that can be controllers as well, because we don't want to invoke. Should it be the case? Maybe. No. No, it should be the use cases, right? For example, what I'm thinking is we have a operation flow for getting this one. Go to buffet, go to dashboards. Yeah, let's click on this one. Here's a fingerprint view collection page. This one, right? If I open this in incognito, let me just see if, yeah, I need to update it. Let's hide the personal website. When I'm logged in, I can see the personal website, right? But when I'm not, I'm gonna open incognito. I don't see the personal website because I hid it, right? It shouldn't be visible. But this is going to be the same controller, right? This is going to be the same controller with this one. But in these two cases, it's going to produce different results based on the user, right? So it shouldn't be the controller that's doing these things. The controller should just orchestrate specific use cases, but the authentication and authorization check should happen inside of the use case, not inside of the controller. So in this case, we might say, let's actually try that. Let's actually try that. It does make sense for the authentication check to happen as well inside of the use case. Yeah. Let's see. Let's see. Source is the folder where the whole architecture is. App is only the Next.js app, right? So this is our backend basically inside source. We have the application layer here, the entities layer, which is at the bottom, and we're missing one for the interface adapters. The web UI thing is the app directory here, and I have to keep it as app because it's Next.js. Yeah. All right, let me just say quickly hi. I see Cabral is here. How's it going, Cabral? Inderjit as well, and Theoris. How's it going? Thanks for tuning in. This is going to be a really cool episode. Yeah, app is the web UI. Source is the clean architecture that we're doing here. This whole thing right here. So we're missing one for the interface adapters because we have entities, we have infrastructure, which is this layer at the top, and the DI is just a DI. This can even be outside here. You know, doesn't actually matter. It's just that we have all of these files here. Yeah, we can rip this out. It's still gonna work nicely. So we need the interface adapters. Let me just see. Interface adapters. Yeah, this one is called the interface adapters. This is the application. This is the entities or the enterprise business rules, and this is the frameworks and drivers. So we call this web UI. We call this controllers presenters or interface adapters. I feel like it's a longer name. You know, if I just say adapters, what kind of adapters? Database adapters? Not really. Interface adapters is not descriptive enough because it's not interface adapters, it's user interface adapters, because these, the controllers and presenters, they work for the web UI layer, right? So it's like user interface, like UI adapters. Maybe we should call it like that. What do you think? Like UI? Oh, not like that, but like this. UI adapters. Yeah. UI adapters. Let's go with that, I guess. Because interface is like way too long. Let's see how it looks like. Interface adapter. Well, it's not. We'll keep it as interface adapters. If you don't think we should keep it as like interface dash adapters, let me know. But I don't see a problem with that. So yeah, and then inside we need controllers, right? And we also need to figure out how to handle the adapters, because adapters will be inside of the controllers. And I don't feel like they should be like their own folder, maybe their own file, I guess. I don't know. We'll see. We just need to refactor one, and it's going to be like the create collection one. Let's refactor this one and see if we actually need a special place for presenters as well. So this is going to be the create collection dot controller dot ts, and we're doing the postfix. This is like all of the controllers will have dot controller. For example, these ones I should technically rename them to be dot repository. Entities are just plain link.ts, etc. And we have dot interface here, dot use case here, right? So we have the repository interface. Okay, we're gonna think about this. This has nothing to do with clean architecture. It's just like a figuring out what is the best naming convention for, you know, the different type of thing, because we have collection link repository. This one holds the interface, but this one infrastructure repository, this one holds the implementation, and you don't see it, but there we go. See, this is the interface, this is the implementation, and this one is the mocked implementation. So it's just about, you know, just about are we being descriptive enough? But let's figure that out later. Right now, create collection controller, and this is going to refactor the thing on the right, which is the create collection. Okay, so export function async function create collection controller. We'll see what it receives as an argument. I guess the input, right? The create collection input schema. But we're going to use the input schema here to actually do the validation. It's going to it is going to receive like an arbitrary data, and it is going to return a promise of something. And this is not going to be a collection. It shouldn't be a collection because, see, created at, it is a string. Interesting. Yeah, because we define this as a string, but we keep it as a as a date, which is still a string, but yeah. Okay, let's see. Yeah, I'm gonna keep this as a collection for the time being, but we'll see, because entities like models are one thing, and they're like they hold the actual type of data, and the shape of the data, the original one, the one that we keep in the database, and the one that we are using across the whole app. But the controller returns a UI version of that, and it might not always be just a collection, because the controller can also be like, give me the data for this screen, which can contain everything, can contain links and users and collections and everything, right? So it's not going to be that. We'll see how we can map out the output, how to handle basically the output. Do we need like specific models? We shouldn't declare them there. Each controller logically should define its own output. But let's just move on. And see what we get. We're gonna put data any, and we're not supposed to use any, I know, but I'm just gonna put it data any in this case, right? So controllers, right? let me just like put a to do here. Controllers validate input, right? And they also orchestrate use cases. So let's validate the input first. We have a create collection controller. We also have a create collection input schema, right? So let's do just that. Let's just do data equals create collection input schema. And this is good that we have it already. I'm gonna do parse or try parse. Let's do try parse, okay? And I'm gonna pass inputs inside. This is gonna be the input, and this is gonna be the data, right? Oh, it's not try, it was save parse. Yeah, save parse. So data can also be undefined, I believe. There's no docs. Yeah, let me just quickly zod.dev. Let me just quickly say save parse. If you don't want Zod to throw errors when validation fails, use the save parse. Cool. This method returns an object containing either the successfully parsed data or a Zod error instance containing... There we go. So it's going to be either success and data or either success and error. That's what we need. So it's going to be success, data, error, right? If there's an error happening, and we can even like change the alias to parse error, or like input parse if we want to be like really descriptive. Yeah, let's do that. Input parse error, because we're going to have multiple use cases. At the end we might have like another type of parser. So this is the input parse error. If it exists, we can like throw yeah, this is one more thing that we need to figure out, but let's just throw some kind of an error. And that error cannot be a library specific error because we're trying to get away from the whole thing. Our backend should just use plain JavaScript, right? That's it. Let's see, we have common errors here. Operation error, not found, unique constraint, violation error. Let's do another one. I'm just gonna copy it here. Delete until capital E. What's this one going to be called? What's this one going to be called? I guess like in input parse? Or bad request. This would be a bad request. Because you want me to do something, but you're giving me a weird shape of data. I'm gonna say bad request. But the bad request is the more like a consequence, right? Yeah, let's just do input. Let's just do input parse error, because we're going to be doing this in all of the controllers. So if an input parse error happens, then whatever the client is can just, that can throw bad request. What if this is being used in a CLI? There's no bad request. There's like plain errors. So input parse errors. The error should reflect the cause, not the consequence. Because for one cause, we can have multiple consequences depending on what scenario that we're in, right? Input parse, in this case, will result in a bad request. But if this wasn't a Next.js app, if this was a CLI app, or I don't know, something else, maybe this was a cron job, there's no bad request for crons, right? You're not letting a browser or a user know the cron failed. So it's still going to be an input parse error, but the cron will handle it indifferently. Exactly, yeah. The cause of the error is that the input parsing failed, so that's what the error should be called, right? There we go. So throw input parse error. There it is. We'll just bring it in. Let's do a message. I can put in an object here and do cause. Do I have it here? Hey, I don't have it here, actually. Message and then options. And inside of the options, we have the cause. Well, that's what I'm doing, right? Input parse error, entities. Cause is input parse error. And I'm going to say it's just an input parse error, right? There's a title and description. Maybe I'll just reuse it. Input parse error.title. How about that? Now let me see what's wrong with this. It's not callable. Throw new input parse error. Damn it. Okay, there we go. Okay, so title is what? This is a zone error that contains input parse error dot name. I guess name, right? Okay, cool. There we go. So after this point, we have validated the input, right? And if we say data, then it's not going to be potentially undefined, right? There we go. So in this case, we have the data, and then we need to just start orchestrating basically this, moving the functionality of the create collection server action in here. All right, let me check some messages here. FTA is here. How's it going? Imperium, hey, yo, long time no see. How are you? I'm really good, thank you. 14 members watching. Play like, and let's push this live to more team learners, please. Yeah, thank you. Thank you for that. How is Hetzner hosting? I'm planning to buy a dedicated VPS. I still don't know. I do plan on moving Bife over to Hetzner and to, you know, wrap this whole thing that we're doing here in Docker and, you know, just like do the whole DevOps thingy. I think it's going to be really cool. But if you're using Next.js, then you should probably check this out. You should probably check this out. Scroll all the way down to something that I shared. This one. I'm gonna paste it here. This is a really good guide by Brandon from Flight Control. I've known him from Blitz.js. So Brandon from Blitz wrote a really cool guide on how to self-host Next.js. Basically all the gotchas. So yeah, do check it out. All right, let's move on. I'm gonna do this. Basically what we need is, after we validate the inputs, what we need to do is just invoke the create collection use case. If it catches, then we'll do something. Otherwise, yeah, we'll just we would return, not redirect, but return. And you don't see it here, but yeah. Mr. True Player says, quick question, are your models just types at this point? Pretty much, yeah. Models are inferred types from like Zod schemas. So like they also can do, they have a schema, an accompanying schema, which can do validation as well. Do it like this. Collections schema. Yeah. Okay, yeah. The data is valid now. And we can just do, what can we do here? Because we also have errors. And you see I'm throwing a ZSA error and stuff like that. That's going to happen in, that's going to still be here. But let's see. I'm gonna do this collection equals await create collection use case. There it is. And we'll pass in the data because the data is what, yeah, the data is what there it should be, right? Oh, there's like an object actually. I'm using this as an object. Title, input description. Well, yeah. Delete around curly, and we'll just say data here because that's correct. Then we'll just say return collection. Let's think about errors, right? We don't use success. I'm just going to remove this so we can clean it up. There we go. Create collection controller. This basically is, yeah, not using any libraries, as you can see, aside from, Zod in this case, but that's fine. The point is to validate the input. That's the easiest way in JavaScript to do that. So let's just, not complicate things. We'll just use Zod to do the validation because it's like one-liner basically. We throw here if the input is not valid, and then from this point on, all we work with is use cases, right? That makes sense. So there's one error that can be thrown here. There's also all sorts of errors that can be thrown from this point here. That means inside of the server action, we should do like a try catch, and then we should just start looking for, looking for errors. If this is this kind of error, right, not authorized, then we can throw a specific ZSA error that says you're not authorized. If this is an input parse error, we'll throw a bad request. Yeah, it's gonna be really cool. Yeah, this is looking good. I'm going to leave errors bubble up from this point. Because that's JavaScript. We let errors bubble up, and then we'll catch them here, and then we're gonna handle them however we like. But this here contains duplicates functionality. First, it checks for authentication, and then it checks for input validation. We want that logic to be in our backend, not in the framework level, right? So we're going to refactor this a bit. I'm still going to use ZSA because, I like this, throwing ZSA errors, and this error can be anything. Can be like input parse, method not supported, payload too large. There's forbidden as well, not authorized. You see, I like that because I'm also using ZSA on the client side, so I like that. I'm still going to use ZSA. I'm just not going to do the input here, and I'm also not going to do the authenticated procedure here. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do this, and I'm going to bring in create server action from ZSA. I'm going to remove this. Create server action is here. Okay, there we go. And now here, yeah, one thing that I also realized. We kept talking about when do we report errors to Sentry. I actually changed my mind. We're not going to be doing those here. We're actually going to report it at the exact same place where it happens. Like catch it, report it, rethrow it. Or like rethrow our own errors. For example, when we're going to be doing database operations, that's going to throw Supabase error. We're going to capture that, send it to Sentry, but we're going to throw our own kind of error and let that bubble up, and we're going to handle it here. So we're not reporting the errors to Sentry at the topmost level. We are reporting them whenever they happen, right? We say throw, and then we say report. I think that would be better. We can play with Sentry. We can see how that looks like. What, if there's like any difference in type of data and information that we have, so we can debug later. But yeah, so far, I think it's gonna be better to capture them at the exact same place when they happen. Convert them to a different type of error and then let that one bubble up so that, the invoker, in this case, the server action, will handle it properly. Yeah. There's not gonna be an input here. Actually, there is gonna be an input. It's just gonna be undefined, right? Yeah. I am gonna use create collection here. Oh, because now this is going to be okay. Interesting. This is gonna break, but yeah. Let's see. Here's the collection, right? Instead of create collection use case, we should just invoke the controller, and we are gonna pass in the input like so, right? Try to give me the controller. That's it. I'm gonna delete this because we already covered this. We are handling them as where they happen, and now we're just gonna do a bunch of ifs here, right? So this one is operation error. This is basically a database type of error, and I should use a better name for that, but it is what it is right now. But let's check out first. We have the input parse error, right? If the error is an instance of input parse error, that's our brand new one, we are gonna throw a ZSA error with the input parse one. Input parse error, there we go, right? Let's see. If the error is the instance of input parse error, then in that case, I guess we can do like error dot name, because that would be the title, I think, or message. We need to see. We need to check here. Skip the message then. Skip the message. There's one thing. Another thing is instance of not authorized or unauthorized. Unauthorized error. Yeah. If we're trying to create a collection but we're not authorized to do that, not authorized error, right? And you see this repetition. I feel like we can make a mapper function out of this, but yeah. And this one, I'm also going to delete until plus. I'm also gonna keep it like a one-liner because I want to see what we get from on the UI with just passing the message, or if we need like a specific UI friendly message, which I think is the case, but I'm just gonna be, I'm gonna give it the benefit of the doubt here. Okay, we can have like a bad input, which is gonna be an input parse. We can have an unauthorized error. See, in this case, it's not even a bad request. If this was an API handler, we would return a bad request. But it's not. There are no status codes in server actions, and that's why I think input parse error, keeping it vague, is actually it's not vague. It's more specific to the cause instead of the consequence, right? If we name this bad request error, then it would be very weird to say bad request inside of a server action, right? There we go. So input parse, unauthorized, and operation error. So let's go inside of the use case. This can throw the unauthorized. So if we do authentication service, it's an auth error, not unauthorized error. That means if the user doesn't exist, we need to handle that as well. There we go. There we go. This is another case that we need to see because it's like a plain error. I think when we wrote this line, we didn't have any errors defined. So this would be an input parse error. right? We're trying to an input parse, but maybe this should happen outside. I'm gonna undo this, but I'm going to put to do here move provider validation in controller, because there's gonna be a controller that does this, right? Yeah. There's again the auth error, so we need to handle that. This controller can be invoked by a server action that is not, there is no authentication. So we need to also handle that as well here. Input parse would happen first, then we would say auth error, and I'm going to rename this to something better. We're not talking about authorization, we're talking about authentication. So I would just say forbidden, right? And this message doesn't need to be actually the one. We can just say you must be logged in to create a collection. Yeah, you must be logged in to create a collection. That makes sense. So I'm trying to keep the order of the errors as they would happen, right? First, if we would see an input parse error, it's going to be the first one, because that's the first thing that's going to happen inside of the controller. We get into the controller, we try to do the save parse thingy. Yeah, not going to happen. Then it's going to be the input parse that's going to be first. Then we invoke a use case, which will, potentially throw either an authenticated error or unauthorized error. So these two would happen next. And then the use case would invoke, you're not seeing this. The use case would invoke a repository, which would throw, if it throws, it would throw an operation error. So that's why it's the last one. And then this is basically a switch with a default case. In that case, it's just going to be a plain error, right? This one is a plain error as well. So there's like no difference between these two. We'll see if that's like a good or bad idea. But that's what I'm trying to achieve here. Nevertheless, we're good here. Create collection is good. The only thing that thinking about is now where we use this. We use this on the UI. Any errors here? Ah, there we go. We reuse the input schema for the form on the UI. This is fine, if you ask me. The input schema is not really tied to... It shouldn't be contained only to the backend. If we can reuse this, then sure. This will allow us to have better typings. But we still do it, we do it on the backend because that's the safe way. We do it here on the front end, but the front end is easy to just bypass, right? I can write a curl query in a matter of seconds that would do the same request. It's just without a front end, and I can pass anything I want, and I'm not going to be stopped by this form or the ZOT schema that it uses. So there we go. We still validate on the backend as well. I'm gonna keep this here first because it allows us to use ZSA, and it also allows us to, it provides us type safety for the forms. So I'm just gonna keep it here. Okay, create collection is now successfully refactored. That's all there is, right? Create collection controller takes in an input and then it returns a collection. This is where we use a presenter. this is where we use a presenter. Right now, I'm returning a collection, which is pretty much fine, I guess, you know? I don't know. Maybe we omit the created by, you know? Maybe we do that. Fluffy Manatee, do you have a public repository with the code? Not yet. I'm just refactoring my pet project right now, but I'm going to be publishing. I'm going to be publishing like a proper course about this. Right now, yeah. Right now, this is a private project, but I'm going to be building a different app, which is going to end up on GitHub. It's not going to have as much noise as this one because this is like an actual project. And there's going to be like a YouTube course that doesn't include me talking, you know, to the chat and changing my mind a few billion times and, you know, refactoring things. We'll just go through how to implement clean architecture in Next.js in like, I don't know, an hour maybe. Yeah. Okay, so let's see. Presenters. Presenters, they prepare the data for the UI. Right now we have a collection, which is of this type. Title, fingerprint, published, created by, created at, and description. So created by is the user. Created at is the date string. And let's actually see. First, I'm going to, I think I'm going to write a tests. Here are all the collection. Not all, but here's what I have right now. For the use cases, I have create, get, update, and delete. And each of them have like a few subtests that check specific scenarios. For example, for the updates, you should update it with valid input. You should throw when you know, when there's an invalid data happening. And now since we have controllers, this validation should actually be moved to a controller because controllers use validations. We shouldn't be using, we should not be using use cases outside of controllers. Yeah. So if I run these, it's all gonna be good, right? They're all passing because, yeah. Why shouldn't they? We wrote them and they're correct. But we're gonna need new types of tests. And those are gonna be not application. They're gonna be like interface adapters controllers. So inside of the unit, interface adapter slash controllers slash collections, I don't know. Or create a collection. Let's go with global, but then we can zero in if we need to. So we'll say collections, collections dash collections controllers dot test dot ts, right? And this file is going to contain all of the tests for all of the collection controllers: create, get, update, etc. We'll start with, you know, from this point perspective, but if we need to refactor, we'll refactor later. Right now, we'll just keep it simple. All right. Let me just bring in describe it and expect. We usually just use these. Then the first test suite is going to be the create collection. Actually, collection controller, right? No, create. Okay, cool. Create collection controller. And then we're going to put all of the specific subtests with it. Yeah, basically this is the tests, and the it is going to be individual scenario. There we go. Best practices for writing tests. You use describe to group multiple its together. Basically, create a test suite that will test one function, which is the create collection controller, which we can even do like this, create collection controller. And these are going to be the different scenarios. What if we pass this? What if we pass that? What if this doesn't exist? Or what if we're not logged in? All the different scenarios are defined with it. So, first order of business, create collection controller. Let's just write a test that uses that passes, right? That passes correct input, and yeah, it should create a collection with valid input. And then we'll do an async function here, probably because we want to, actually we don't, we'll keep it as async. In most cases we don't, but let's just keep it as async. Or not, let's use it when we need to be leaner. All right, let's check this out. It should create a collection with valid input. That means let's get the inputs first, and the inputs is going to have a title. I'm not using types here on purpose. And a description, right? A title is going to be hey stream, and the description is going to be controllers are cool, for example, right? Then we need to log in, because this is the happy path, right? So authentication service equals get injection. We use get injection in tests as well. And this is going to be authentication service. There we go. And we'll say, we probably need the await. Await authentication service dot sign in with passwords. This should be async now. It should be, let's say, one at bfair.sh. I think that was the case. Let me just double check. Authentication service, and then we're going to use the mock one because we're in tests. Yeah, there we go. 2 at bfair.sh. The password is 1 password, 2 password, 3 password. There we go. This one, we should throw an authentication error, not resolve it. Yeah. We don't implement the provider because I don't think I can mock that, right? But yeah, here's the get user. If it exists, return it. If not, not authenticated. We haven't mocked these yet because we don't have tests, but we might end up, later doing that as well. Okay, sign in with passwords. We'll do these things. Find the user. If the password doesn't exist or it doesn't match, invalid credentials, that's it. So we'll do 1 password. And for the TS token, I hate this. This is basically the turn still token that the authentication service needed. The real one needs it because it uses Supabase, right? So Supabase receives that turn still token is actually reCAPTCHA. Validate that you're a real user, but you're not a bot type of thingy. So that's what it is. And because I'm using Supabase, I have to pass that all the way until the actual service. I need to figure it out. But yeah, okay. First, we want to make sure that we're logged in. If we're not logged in, we're going to receive the error. But that's going to be a different test scenario. This one is the happy path, right? And now we can just say expect create collection controller, and we're going to bring it in. We'll pass the input resolves actually, create collection controller resolves, and then we'll say to match object, most likely. But I want a partial match. I can't provide the actual match here. I just want to say the title should match hey stream, and the description should match controllers are cool. Okay, let's see if this works, because this is going to have a created by, created at, it's going to have a fingerprint. I don't have those here. I mean, sure, created by, let's say, is going to be 1 because we're logged in with the user 1. All right, run this. Bam, it's not running. Okay, let's see what's up. His own metadata is not a function. Interesting. Most likely, I'm forgetting to add the reflect metadata at the top. There we go. Okay, now let's try that again. Okay. Cannot find module collections. Validation schemas collection imported from interface adapters. What is going on? Module not found. So this is not. This is a different type of error, because I'm using use cases directly here, because these are use case tests. I'm going to be using container controller test now. Well, let me just check tsconfig. Let me check vtest config in that case. Add file goes to source. Okay, source. And the error was that we can't go to the add/web imported from interface adapters controller. We have hold on a second. Oh yeah, this input schema. We should move this. This should not point to the web one, because no, right? At web is here, and we keep the validation schemas here. We should not be keeping them here. I think it's okay if these live inside of the interface adapters. We have controllers, and then we're gonna do input schemas here, right? It does make sense. Let's think about it for a minute. Right now, the validation schemas are defined here in the web UI, and interface adapters should import them from there. That means the arrow is gonna be also like this. We're breaking the dependency rule in this case, you see? Because if the validation schema lives here, we need to import it here. That means this one depends on this one. That should not be the case. But this one already depends on this one. So we'll just move them from web UI. We'll just move them to interface adapters, right? Let's do that. So we'll go grab this and put it here. Validation schemas now live inside of the interface adapters. And this already did update. I'm just going to do a write all and wait for the slowest formatting in the world to finish. You see? There we go. What this basically did is went to procedures. It basically went to the auth, most likely, and updated this to import from interface adapters, which is fine because this is web, and web depends on interface adapters anyway, right? And if we're invoking a UI adapter, then the schema should just, it's okay for the schema to live there. Nice. Okay. This is not an error. These are all Next.js specific stuff. We still use the authenticated procedure, but we will end up deleting this after we refactor all of the server actions. So we are on the way. And there are errors here. Let me see. Where's the error? Oh, there we go. So execute is the create collection. And we have the create collection schema. Check it out. Values. Oh, look at that. Okay. Okay, so because we didn't define an input. Yeah. Because we didn't define an input, we can't really use ZSA. I don't want to... It does make sense though. Input is always here. Okay, we need to rethink this. ZSA forces us to use the input schema right here. But that actually couples our backend with ZSA, with Next.js, with everything, right? Zod is cool, but ZSA is a different thing. You would use Zod in Vue.js, but you wouldn't use ZSA in Vue.js, is what I mean. How do we do this then? Because if we actually rip out ZSA, it's gonna cause us a lot of refactoring. But in that way, we're going to keep everything, you know, uncoupled. Yeah. Because I don't want to be doing, I don't want to do two validations at the same time. Here it is. And I like the on error and on success. It's just like, just really good, you know. How does Next.js itself recommend using server actions? I think it was like use form status, something like that. There was a hook. Non-form element. And we can just like await it and do like a try catch. Yeah. Await and just, well, let's refactor that, right? Oh man, that means we are actually ripping out Zod. Yeah. We'll see. That means we also need to refactor these. Instead of a ZSA error, it should be like a different type of error. We'll see how that gets mapped and sent to the browser. Hey Sami, how's it going? Today we're implementing controllers and presenters, and right now I am actually removing Zod, not Zod but ZSA. We're gonna keep this here. use server action comes from the ZSA package, so we need to get this out. And when we say execute, it's here in the submit. Well, here's what we're gonna do. I'm going to define a function that actually does that. It's going to invoke Mr. TruePlayer asks another question. Besides the entry point, what else do you need to use reflect metadata imports? I saw it in your tests, but is that because you initialize them and then tear them down after use? Yeah, because unit tests are like mini apps themselves. So at the top of the unit test is basically the top of the app, right? And in this case, when we actually want to run the app, we'll still get the same issue if we don't do this. And I actually recorded a video for this. Inside of Next.js, I had to override the webpack config, right? And push the banner plugin to add that require reflect metadata after, we compile everything. And this is not the most optimal way because it's going to add the require reflect metadata in all of the chunks. It's not just once, it's in every chunk. And some pages pull in multiple chunks, but that's just, we have to accept that. I don't feel like there's any other way in Next.js right now. So we have to do this. Yeah. I already recorded a video. If you wanna, have it cleaner and, just like see what's going on and why this is happening, you can check out my channel. I think it's like the second to last one. But yeah, we have to do this. All right, execute. Execute is going to use it's just going to invoke. Here's what is going to happen. We'll say try, and we'll say catch. Here's the catch. Here's the try. Remove this and this, and then just do collection created. I'll wait. Create collection. There it is. Where is it? Create collection. Oh, hold on. It's not. Actually need to refactor it. It's still a ZSA action, so I just need to do this basically. And instead of input like this, we'll just say input is this. Okay. It implicitly has any type. This one uses the create collection input schema. So let's go here and actually export a type. Create collection inputs, because it's going to be validated by the front end, right? It's going to be z.infer type of create collection input schema. There we go. And just invoke that. Oh, we don't. There's a type. Create collection inputs. And there we go. So here, I am awaiting. I need the data here, or the input. Create collection input here, and then just pass in the input here. And this needs to be async. Async function, not function async. And then we have the await, and now the error doesn't understand the message, and you don't see that. The error doesn't understand the message because the error is of type unknown. We need to do the instance of thingy. So yeah. See, I got that up and running, but I haven't gotten it to my tests yet. Yeah, just put it at the top. That's why we need to. That's why we need to do that, because the Next.js will run, but tests don't even touch Next.js. That's why we need to, add the reflect metadata individual in the tests, because they have no notion that Next.js exists in that project, right? It's just using the JavaScript testing the JavaScript that we wrote. All right, in this case, I can ignore this, because it's a TypeScript error. I can just use ts ignore. It is gonna have a message. We'll see how we can ignore this safely, right? Right now, we'll just keep it. As a matter of fact, I actually wanna do this console.log type of error, because I want to see what is the type of the error that ends up in the browser, right? If we throw something here, and these are not going to be ZSA errors, we might as well use our own now, and it's going to be fine. We're not breaking any rules, because the web depends on the interface adapters. The interface adapters depend on the application, and the application depend on the entities in which the errors are defined. So since interface adapters depend on the application, they also transitively depend on the entities as well. Same for the web UI. So if we import our errors into web UI, it's all good. We're not breaking any, dependency rules in this case. We're still clean architecture by the book. So let's just, in that case, then we can just like rethrow, but we shouldn't be rethrowing, right? What is this? Is the server action. We don't even need to throw a ZSA error in this case. We can just like throw an error maybe. Oh. String has no properties in common with type. Yeah. Ooh, what did I do? Error.message. Yeah. So like we don't need the first. And you see? And if we do this, then we can just do error.message again, which is still unknown. This is the same. This is the same. There is no. We'll see about this. But in this case, we'll throw an input parse. We'll throw an auth error. And the auth error actually uses a status number. No, we don't care about the status number inside of the error. Yeah, message and options. Keep it simple. So now let's see where we use this. There we go. 400. Well, I don't know. I just pass a message. And the options are optional. There we go. Where else? There we go. Invalid credentials. See, we're not even passing options, and status codes should not be defined inside errors, because errors, they don't care about status codes. In this case, we are going to have the cause in this case, because this is a super base error. Did that make sense? What else? Where else? Not authenticated, invalid credentials. This is the super base one. Yeah. There's a status, one more status. One more status. Okay, there we go. Bring back the zoom. Yeah, that's good. So we're just like throwing auth errors. Let's go all the way back to the collection, delete link, edit link. Come on now. This is the test. Well, we need to be here. Create collection controller. Actually, we want to be in the actions. Collections, actions. There we go. So we're throwing auth error here. We're throwing unauthorized error here and the operation error here. And in this case, maybe I should just rethrow the same error because I don't know what it is, right? We can't handle it. This is like a default case. We'll figure it out, but for the time being, let's just like keep it as throw error. There we go. So we have this now. We have a server action, which is like a plain Next.js server action that invokes one controller. It handles a bunch of errors, and then it does some, redirect, etc. Seems like we have like a... Ah, there we go. We don't need this one. Nice. There we go. So throwing will cut the execution at this point. So if it doesn't throw and we have the collection, we'll just redirect the browser to the collection details page in this case. Okay, this is fine. I'm gonna save this. And then we have the execute, all good. Collection created, close the modal. If not, log out the error. And we'll see about the error. We can try to, we'll try to mimic something, cause an error on purpose to see what gets sent down. So we're not going to be using this one. We can see that we have refactored ZSA out of this component. This component uses interface adapters and web. And that means it doesn't break the dependency rule. And it should just function, It should just function. But before we test that, let's just make sure that our actual unit test passes, right? So sign in, that's gonna be good. And then create collection. It should see. We have the same thing again. No matching bindings found for service identifier authentication service. Oh, hold on a second. Yeah, I also forgot this part right here. Before each and after each, I need to set up these things. Not this one, not this one, but just this one, this one, this one, and this one. And not this one. Okay, what this basically does is it sets up the DI container before and sets it up before each of the tests and destroys it afterwards because we want to isolate the DI container to be just to be in the scope of a single test case, in a single scenario, in a single it, right? So when we say sign in with passwords and we sign in with the one at bfed.sh, we don't want to still be signed in the next test case, because the next test case might actually be a test case that tests how controllers or use cases behave when we are not signed in, right? So that's why we want to do the initialize and destroy container before and after each test case. And what this basically does is just loads all of the modules and destroy and loads them. That's all. That's all. And we automatically initialize it if we're not in testing mode. That means if we're in dev mode, cool, initialize them. But if we're in test mode, we want to manually initialize them because we also want to destroy them. That's all. Because if I call initialize twice, it's gonna break. Okay, let's see now. Beautiful, test passed, right? Even though we have a partial object, it still passed. For example, if I change this and say, hey, not gonna work, we definitely are gonna see a big red X. There we go. Yeah, expected this to match something, but it's actually not true. There we go. So this actually works, right? I can do this now. Here's the inputs. Let's refactor the test a little bit. So title is going to be hey stream. Description is going to be const, actually. Const description is going to be controllers are cool. We'll do this, delete until curly, and then we'll just say like this, right? Here's the input, pass that in, and when it resolves, it should basically match the same title and description, but additionally, it should do created by and set that to 1. That's it. So this test passes, right? Let's try something else then. It should throw, because this is the controller now, right? We tested the happy path. Let's say it should throw the auth error, right? Check this out. I don't want to go any further before I actually refactor the error. I want to go to entities, authentication errors, and instead of auth, it doesn't tell us because auth can be authorization, authentication, and if this is unauthorized error, this should be unauthenticated error, right? So I'm just going to rename this unauthenticated, right? It should reflect the cause. The cause is the user is not authenticated. There we go. So I'm just going to do WA, wait for the formatting again to go through all of the files. It was just like 2. Okay, good. And now, let me just double check that, inside of the actions, it actually is input parse, unauthenticated, unauthorized. Nice. So basically, in this case, we're just like rethrowing all of these messages, right? As you can see. We're basically rethrowing, but we can't just like rethrow the same error. First, I want to see what's happening, and then we need to handle this case as well. But we'll do that later. What are we doing now? We're writing another test that makes sure that it's gonna throw. Okay, it should throw an unauthenticated error when trying to create a collection unauthenticated, right? All right. I'm gonna copy I'm gonna copy this part. Actually, just these 3. Hey, stream controllers are cool. There's the input, and we can say expect without logging in. Expect create collection controller input rejects to error to throw error. What was the error again? The error message. Let's go and check it out. Create collection controller. It's gonna do this. There's the authentication service. Mock auth. It's gonna throw not authenticated. Yeah, let's do that then. Maybe I should like see I also want to throw, let's see, matching snapshot to throw. Oh, there we go. And there's an error. Maybe I should do that. To throw type of unauthenticated error. And we're gonna bring it in. Is this okay? This should be okay. Yeah? Yeah. I don't care about the message. I just care about the type of the error, right? So if I run this, it should just pass. No. Expected function to throw error including function, but got not authenticated. So yeah, that's what we're actually throwing. Let's check this out. Vtest expect to match error type or the instance of. Let's see, to throw error. Oh, it's the alias to throw. Asserts if a function throws an error when it's called. So it can be a regex or a string. It just throws an error. Pineapples are not in stock. And something happened there. And then we have, yeah, we have stock which matches that, you know, this message is contained within stock. But I actually want to see if I can, if it matches like a specific exception, right? It throws an unauthenticated error. Not on the message, but on the type. Is that possible? This is snapshot testing. I have no idea what that is. But let's see. Vtest match error type. Reading errors. If you're using expect type of to expect type documentation and its error messages. Okay, let's see. Yeah, instance of, but how to connect that here? Because rejects, we need that. We need that, and then we say to throw, and throw can also be an error. Maybe we can do like maybe something like this to like explicitly match. No. Expected error to have message not authenticated. Well, I have a typo. So it is gonna work. Yeah. So it's not just the type, it's actually the message itself. This is good. I feel like this is good. The only thing that I don't like about this is when we're actually throwing. Let's see. This tells us that we should bring our own messages. You know, we should like write our own messages whenever we throw these types of errors, and it's not always the case. Right? Check this out. Yeah. Hey, thanks, Pranav. Appreciate you. Let's check out some messages. William, what's the answer for your question, Fluffy? Fluffy asked, do you have a public repository? And the answer was no, right now, but I do plan on publishing a separate repo, which is just going to have clean architecture. And it's not going to have like, you know, too much noise. This is like my pet project. I'm also planning to record all of my findings in like an official YouTube course, which is gonna be a lot shorter than these live streams. Because in these live streams, I'm just figuring things out. Pranav, bro, you're a champion. Love from India. Thank you, Pranav. I really appreciate these kind of words. Awesome. Let's move on. We'll see. I'm not really feeling this, you know, but yeah, I'm gonna keep it like this then, you know. Sometimes we just might want to look for the message. Sometimes we might want to look for the type of the error. And there is no callback in this case. It has to be something like this. What is constructible? Ah, yeah, something that has a constructor that we can invoke new to it. Okay, vtests. That's vtests, and that's fine, right? Okay, so happy path, good. First is the unauthenticated error, but let's like try to match. Let's try to match all of the like the actual flow. First, we have the input parse, and let's actually do that. I'm going to grab the happy path and I'm gonna put it last, okay? Because it's like it's gonna be the last. First, we have the first type of error, which is the input parse. Then we have the unauthenticated, which we already wrote. Then we're gonna try to do the unauthorized, which in this case it's not gonna happen because you know it's not we don't have that. I'm gonna see. But then we have like an operation for the database, and otherwise it's like happy path. Yeah. WebDev Spider asks to be instance of not work. Let's try that one as well. Let's try that one as well. So here's the throw. I'm gonna do expect again, create collection controller input rejects to be instance of interesting unauthenticated error type of no. To be instance of, let's see, new. Unauthenticated error. Okay. It's happy, but let's comment this one out and let's see. There we go. Beautiful. I'm gonna change this just to confirm to unauthorized, and it's not gonna throw an unauthorized, it's gonna throw an unauthenticated. Nice. Not authenticated to be an instance of unauthorized. Yeah. Beautiful. This is it, basically. This is it. Yeah. Awesome. WebDev Spider, thank you so much for this. I don't want to match the message, right? Plus, we're testing the controller. Messages could also be formed inside of the you know, the server actions or APIs or whatever. Yeah. Beautiful. I like that. I like that. And we started to write the input parse error. So it should throw an input parse error when trying to create a collection with invalid input. What a name. Maybe I should keep these names shorter as well. All right, so let's see. I'm gonna do an expect immediately here. Create collection controller, and I'm gonna pass just this to be instance of like a plain object, you know. And the instance of is gonna be the input parse error, and I need to bring it in. There we go. Okay, it should throw this. It doesn't throw that. Oh, sorry. I actually missed rejects, and then to be instance of. There we go. Still nuts. Oh, we have an async here. Maybe that's the case as well, right? Well, we have async here as well, but it still passes. There we go. This is good. Now this should be good as well. And this should be good as well. Nice. All right, tests are passing. Here's the first. Then we have the unauthenticated, which is this one. Then we have the unauthorized, which I don't know how we can, cause. Let's see. Yeah, create collection use case inside. We don't throw that. Here's the unauthenticated. This could be an operation error inside. I don't know how we can, mock as well. But yeah, I guess we won't handle that use case. Damn it. Okay, let me clear out. Delete all the other buffers. It never works. Yeah. Okay. The only one that's left is the operation. I don't know how to handle that because it's like operation error happens. Let me check this out. Go to source, application, use case. Actually, infrastructure repositories. Here's the real one. And then we do map Postgres error to domain error. Not found, unique constraint violation. And then the default one is the operation error. And if you ask me, I have no idea what the error code could be. What Supabase can throw that's going to result in an operation error. So that's why I still haven't seen this. And maybe this is why it's hard to do like a test-driven development when using Supabase. I don't know. How would you do this if you don't know all the error codes and you can't actually you also can't Google them? These are for the storage. They don't look like this. No such bucket, no such key. That's cool and all, but yeah, we are looking to do that. Not in the storage, in the database. Let's see. Testing your database. I don't think we should do this. Yeah, these are like just DB tests, which you can do if you have like, procedures and stuff, and hooks, triggers. Yeah. Okay, so I don't know if I can mock that at least right now. I'm gonna have to, use the app, catch an operation error, send it to Sentry, so I can look at the actual data. What is the cause, what is the message, what is the error code. Look at the message that's being sent to Sentry, and then I'll say, okay, we can, there it is. We can do that. Okay. Until then, I'll just say, yeah. I'll just say I don't care about that right now. All right, so let me just run all of the tests. Ooh, interesting. Yeah. Because we removed... Check this out. Inside of our use case tests, where is it? we need to do the authentication. Should create a collection with valid input. We're not authenticated, right? We said that we set the mock authentication service to be authenticated by default, but we don't want to do that. So that means we need to sign in now. And there we go. I was going to do one. There we go. Created by should be one. Yeah. One here. Should throw when creating a collection invalid input. We should still be logged in, right? We should still be authenticated with invalid inputs. Yeah. Run these again. When fingerprint collision happens again, and then inside here we should say should return the collection with valid fingerprint, but we should be we should not be authenticated for this creating. Yeah, but it should not be the case. Unauthenticated. Yeah, why get user? Okay, let's get in and see what's happening. We have a get user here. Oh, okay, got it. I'm creating the I'm creating the collection first, and then I'm actually getting it. For the get collection use case, if you have the fingerprint, there is no user. So I still need to log in so I can create it. And if I want to prove, I can just say await authentication service dot logout. Sign out. Sign in, sign out. There's no sign out. Yeah. I'm gonna create one because I need it. Right? Let's go here. Sign up, sign in with password. Sign out. Promise of void. There we go. And now I need to implement inside of the infrastructure. Implement this one. This is the mock. Sign in with provider, sign in with password. Sign out. Promise of void. And it should just say this dot current user equals undefined. Return promise not resolve. Oh, it can be null, not undefined. There we go. I should also implement it in the real one, not just the, there we go. Sign in with provider, sign in with passwords, sign up, async, sign out. And we'll just say await Supabase auth sign out. Is there a sign out? Aha, yeah, create client. I'm missing that. Sign out, there we go. There's some options or errors and stuff. So yeah, just sign out. Can we handle this? I don't know what this might throw, so let's just say unauthenticated, but it's not unauthenticated. If they're trying to if it throws us an error on sign out, that means we are locked in, not locked out. It's not gonna be an unauthenticated error. It's gonna be something else, right? Maybe this time we can do a vague authentication error. I don't know. I don't know. We need to see this in action. But yeah, it's hard. You know, I wish I could just like, hey, in this case, let's just do this. Why I can't? Yeah, I guess that's reality, right? I guess that's reality. All right. Where are we now? We are in the test, and we can just say sign out, and we should be good. Let me just bring this back. Update. Yeah, when we're updating, when requesting a collection with invalid fingerprints, this should pass. Yeah. Then we have the update. And if we want to create or update, we do want to be signed in. Should throw when updating a collection with invalid data. Still, we want to be signed in. And we should also do the case here. William, I gotta go, but thank you and keep up with the great job. Thanks, man. Appreciate it. Yeah, thanks for tuning in. Update collection use case. Okay, it should throw when updating someone else's collection. Sure. That means we do need to be signed in with. Oh, we already have this. Well, I'm just gonna delete this here. We are in one created, and then we sign out. Right? I can do this basically. Sign out and then sign in with a different account, and then I'll say, yeah, update this collection, and you know, which is not created by 2, it was created by 1, and it should throw. Should deletion again requires authentication. You really are inspiring, sir. Thank you. I'm glad. I'm happy. I'm happy. Should create sign in. Should throw when creating someone else. Sure. You gotta. But delete one, and then I change the buffer. Okay. This should be good now. And these ones are good. So if I hit run, all of them should be green. Beautiful. Look at that. Utopia. All of the tests are passing. Okay. Tests are happy. We are happy. We're here. And this one, create collection controller, had 3 cases. Should throw an input parse error when trying to create. Oh, I should really cut these short, right? It doesn't make sense, right? They're too long. Well, let's see. Let's see how we can cut these a bit. Should throw input parse error. Input parse error. We're not trying to, when creating with invalid input, right? Addis Insights. When did you start programming? Okay, I started professionally in 2015. I had my internship in 2013, but I actually started like learning how to code back in high school, and that was like 2011, something like that. Hey, Valinov, how's it going? Yeah, 2011 was when I first started to learn about coding. So that was like what, 13 years ago, something like that. Yeah, 13 years ago. Damn. All right, this is shorter. Should throw unauthenticated error when creating unauthenticated. There we go. We can like drop those words that don't really, you know, contribute to explanation. Of course, it's creating a collection. The tests are for the create collection controller, so we don't need that, right? Should create or should pass. Should pass with valid input. Yeah, there we go. Shorter. Nice. Much nicer. All right, let's see them now. hide my face. Yeah, like you can see that this is still, you know, it's still a bit long, but I can't really cut it more, right? Should throw type of error when, or like when unauthenticated. Creating is still doesn't actually, contribute to the story because it is creating. The whole test suite is called create collection control. So yeah, so that's when unauthenticated. There we go. Should throw input parse error with invalid input. Should throw unauthenticated error when unauthenticated. Should pass with valid input. These are the shortest messages that I can write, I feel like. Check the messages right here again. Should pass with valid input. Should throw. And what should they throw? With invalid, creating a collection? Yeah. Yeah, you see? I don't know what should throw. Plus, I have the message here to throw required. This is with invalid input. That means to be instance of, again, thank you, WebDevSpider, to be instance of input parse error. There we go. That's what we're testing, Should throw input parse error with invalid input. There we go. And this should pass now. No. Oh, it's a Zod error. No. It's a Zod error. It should not be a Zod error. Wait. This shouldn't even be a test. Right? Because create collection use case. Hey, I don't want to debug. Hold on. Create collection use case. You know? Repository. Hold on a second. What is going on? Create collection. There is no Zod errors in. There's a use case. This is not a. This should not be a Zod error, right? Where is it coming from? Create collections use case, authentication, done. And then we do this. New collection. And then we dip into the collections repo. Hold on a second. Collections repository. Here's the real one, right? Collection, create collection. It just does this, maps it, and then it does the schema parse. But the mock one is the one that's actually been triggered. Not that one, but this one. This thing, collection insert schema parse collection. You see, we have we uncovered a hidden error. This parse thingy. There's validation inside of the repository, but it's like a collection insert scheme. Collection insert schema. This should not happen here, right? Yeah. Yeah, no validation should happen inside of the repository. No, but I put the parse here, but as you can see, I'm not actually receiving any data. I'm not expecting any data. I must have put here put this here in order to throw, because if parse is okay, then I'm not using that data, right? That's the thing. So no errors should be thrown here when it comes to input parsing. Repositories do not input parse, right? They don't. They just put it into the database. That's all. This is gonna throw a unique constraint violation if it exists. Otherwise, it should just, you know, push it to the collection. There we go. But even this shouldn't be the case. Should throw input parse error. It's not gonna throw an input parse error. When we say create collections controller, it's gonna throw a different type of error. Let's see which one. Oh, it didn't actually throw anything. Okay, let's see. We do a save parse here. Ah, yeah, okay. It's all good. It's all good. This is the controller. This is the one that we're actually testing. Sorry, I mixed up. Input parse error with invalid input, but on the use case. Controllers, they throw the input parse error because controllers handle input validation. This is a use case, which invokes repository. None of those two handle input parse. You know, input validation, sorry. Controllers do. And we only get to use controllers in our application. And when they use the use cases receive pre-validated input. So this test doesn't even make sense to be here, right? We don't need to test the use case and see what's gonna happen when we pass an invalid input, because use cases always accept pre-validated inputs. There it is. Yeah, this should be okay. Yeah. Okay, let's see. Return a collection with a valid fingerprint. And we're only talking about the use case here. And again, I'm not going to be doing this. Expect this to resolve and to match object, and then we can say title, because we only have a title here. We don't have a description, right? We can also add a description as well. How are you? Description here, description here. There we go. Matt Shipman, where do you put your business rules? Let's say you have a string that has a restricted length. That's going to be the database. That's going to be the repository, I think, because we don't do that right now. Where should that be? Input validation happens in the, well, it should not the repository actually. It should be the controller, because that is part of the input validation, right? It should be the controller, and it already is. Oh my god, why am I? Hold on. We already have that. It's just I'm confused. Check this out. We're doing the input schema, save parse. And this is odd. So if I say min5, this is where those business rules would be. And it's like just like that would be part of the input schema, input validation, which happens in the controller, right? The use case handles authorization. It checks the user. It checks, can this operation be, you know, invoked by this user? Is the user authorized to do this, etc.? That happens here, but inside of the controller is where we make sure that we have the data in the correct shape and form and, you know, valid before proceeding invoking the use cases. So yeah, that would be there. Okay, let's see here. This one passes. Should throw when requesting a collection with invalid fingerprint. Pass as well. Updating. We need, okay, this is authenticated. Good. And again, see, I want to refactor this. I've been following along with your series, and I decided to add entities that are used between the use cases and the repository. I'm not sure if it's the correct way, but it seems to be working well for me. Yeah, you mean like, let me see. You mean you have between these, when you invoke a repository from your use case, you actually use an entity that contains those validation rules, right? So before you save it to the repository, you actually make sure that the data is valid. Well, that makes sense as well. I don't know. It's just that all of these things, infrastructure, application, and entities, are being, you know, are being used and interacted with through the interface adapters layer, which are the controllers. These are user interface. Not like interface, but these are user interface adapters. That's what it means. And I'm going to I'll put this here, and I'm going to put something like user interface, something like this. Just so, you know, just so it's like clearer. But yeah, that makes sense as well. But I thought, you know, because we want to, because use cases should have like a single responsibility, we need something else between these, and that's also by the book. We need something else between these to orchestrate invoking multiple use cases, right? Because operations doesn't operate. One operation is not one use case. One operation is one controller, but the controller might invoke multiple use cases because use cases do only one thing, right? And I also had that in my application as well. Create link. When we're trying to create a link, we first create it, and then we check if for example we have passed the collection property. If we have, make sure that the collection exists, and then add it to that new link to the new collection. So it's like at least 3 use cases just to create a link, you know? And that's all in the controller. So business logic is here, basically. And orchestrating and everything is in here, right? These use cases, they only do one thing. And creating a link and adding it to a collection is not one use case's responsibility. It's like multiple use cases responsibility. That's what we have here. And since we have it here, we're forcing this line here, and we're just saying everything has to go through a controller. So that's why we put the input validation here, just so we can, you know, just so we can throw and break as early as possible right here, while still keeping the logic in our land. And our land, I would say this is the backend right here. This is the framework, and we don't want to put logic and framework together, right? This is everything Next.js in our case. So yeah, that's why I decided to put input validation here, so that the rest of the app will just use that input. We're not going to be validating it multiple times, but that means we can't invoke a use case inside of the web UI part, and that we can even write tests for that as well. Yeah, that's why. All right, I do need to refactor these tests, because you see this, it can be done easily, like this, for example. Resolves to match object. Bam, bam, and then we'll say title, description, and then created by should be 1. And then we don't need this one. There we go, much cleaner. One-liner. Let me see about the tests. Are all of them passing? All of them are passing. Then I'm not gonna continue refactoring them, basically. Okay, cool. The next thing that we want to tackle in this stream is, aside from the controllers, which we did, create collection controller, we should also look into presenters. All right, so we know that presenters are being invoked by the controller a moment before it returns the result back to whoever called it. So let's see. The controller defines what gets returned back from all of the use cases, from all of the results of the use cases, right? Yeah. So this basically will be a plain function that actually lives within the same controller, right? It lives inside of the controller. It's a function that takes in the result from the controller, which will be like models and entities and such, but it's going to return a plain object with some of the properties removed, some of the properties transformed in some way. Yeah, that's what's going to happen. It's basically like a DTO. Yeah, I think like in some way, the controller passes all of the results from all of the use cases and converts them into a single DTO that gets returned back to the server action. Yeah. So let's go inside of the controller, interface adapters, controllers. There we go. We export this as a function. And I guess that's what the only thing that we need. We don't need to export the presenter because the presenter will be used here inside, right? We export this one. And let's just say function create collection presenter, or just like, I don't know, just like presenter, We don't need to name this because we're not exporting it. And if we just do presenter collection, collection, there we go. We just do this. We should be all fine, right? Here's the presenter. And now in here, we are going to return a different object that will contain some of the properties. Let's see. For example, we don't return the created at, right? This one. Because do we use it? Do we actually use this one? Oh yeah, we actually do. Date created. But you see the format? We are going to use a formatting library to convert that date into this type of format, because right now we do it on the UI most likely. Let's confirm. So instead of instead of executing more JavaScript to convert that, we'll just do it on the browser, on the server, and actually return a string so that the browser have just plain strings. Right, let's see. App collections table. Here's a table. Actually, no, the columns define. There's a title, description, published, created at. There we go. You see this? Day.js. We're gonna do this in the presenter, not here. This is just gonna be a string. Cut it out, move it. I don't actually need this whole thing. It's just accessor key and cell. I don't need a custom cell. That's all. Yeah, literally. Okay, and then we go to the source, interface adapters. Here, we're gonna say created by is gonna be this then, right? Let's bring in day.js. Collection created at, and then we have the format. And this is where we control the format, right? Cool. Title, collection.title. Description, collection.description. What else is there? Published. Right? What else is there? Created by, created at, description, well, and fingerprint as well. Yeah. So fingerprint, title, published, created by. This is created at, not by. Just trying to keep the order. Published, created by. We should just, I guess we should just move that. We don't use it anywhere. We keep it for the validation, but we don't display it. So might as well not send it back, right? The idea is to cut down on the bytes that are being returned. And the presenter will, you know, if the UI needs this, then we'll update the presenter. There we go. So day.js is not being used on that part right now. And that means our app is, it should be faster, right? We're not using this JavaScript in the browser. Browsers can be slow, especially on like phones. So this is a good performance move. Yeah, we moved some code around, and now our front end should be faster. Created at, then created, there we go. And there's no created by, as you can see. Nice. And this is by the way, this was the create where was it? Create collection controller. And the only thing that we actually return from this controller, because check it out. If you want to see where this is being used, these are the tests. This is the only place where we use it. Here's the collection. And look at this. We just use the fingerprint. You know? Why return all of that? We don't need this. So let's just go and just, you know. So is the presenter essentially a DTO, or are there use cases for presenters that are not DTOs? I feel like they are, you know, they're like DTOs in a way. Yeah, DTO, but it's like optimized for the UI. Yeah, in this case, I'm just gonna return an object. Yeah, and this promise is gonna be the return type of the type of presenter. Always. Okay, and here's a little TypeScript gymnastic. If you don't want to type out the type that this function returns, just do return type of the type of the function name. So whatever this function returns, it's going to be promise of that. And it is going to be easy for us because we're going to be copy pasting this. We'll keep this signature here. This is not going to have any signatures like return types, explicit ones. Whatever we return, we don't need to update this. We'll just say return presenter, pass in whatever needs to be passed, and that's it, right? So in this case, this is what happens. When we invoke the create collection controller, it only returns back a fingerprint. That's all, right? You want a controller? There's your controller. You have the title and description. You gave it to me. I don't need to give you those. Here's the fingerprint because that's what new. Created by, it's you. You already have that. And created at, that can be the only thing, you know, if you need to show that, basically. But if there is a need, we'll return it. Right now, there's no need. So we're not going to bother with that. There's going to be a different type of controller for these get collections. And we're going to be doing the day.js stuff in there. And I actually want to do that like right now. But in a way, you see all these check marks? This is not a test. So neo test is neo test what? Stop, summary, output, jump, attach. LSP restart. Let's see. LSP restart doesn't actually do anything regarding tests. Okay, doesn't matter. But yeah, this is good. Create collection use case, and then before you return it, just pass it through the presenter. So we'll just have a fingerprint in this case. And when we actually use this here, we say collection, and you see this. Now this is going to be something else. Check it out. This is a promise of a fingerprint. So we only need a fingerprint. It's going to be a string. And I'm just going to, I need to destructure it. I need to destructure this. But I can't destructure it, so I'm going to have to do this. There we go. And then the result is from the controller is here. And then just assign the fingerprint. There we go. Nice. So there's controller and presenter. And that's what it is. The controller, so we can test this part right here. So we can test the orchestration of, specific use cases. In this case, you can see that we have two use cases, right? And this is the create link, the one that I was explaining. We need two use cases. How do we make sure that when we create a link with the collection property defined or provided, that is also going to add it to the use case if we isolate the logic away from the create link use case, right? The create link use case should just check if the user is allowed to create a link or more links. If they are, just put it in the database and that's it. But there's a different use case, right? So that's why we need one more layer so that we can also write tests for the flows, right? The create link controller will do this, and it will contain two tests. One is just create a link without a collection, and then it's going to check that the link exists in the repository, in the database. And then there's going to be one more test that creates a link with a collection as well, and then it also checks that the relationship exists. And that's how we can write tests for operations, right? Because create link is an operation. One operation equals one controller. That's all. But with the presenter, we get back some results. And in this case, for example, the collection details page, or better yet, we're just going to implement the different one. We're going to implement that test, this test right here that fetches the data and populates the table. And the table, as you can see, contains dates, but we know how we keep dates in databases, right? It's just a string of numbers, basically, or UTC strings. So that's basically what the presenter is going to do. Convert this from the database type of date to an actual string date with a specific format. So let's do that. Yeah. Let's do exactly that. We are going to go to the page and first refactor this into a controller. See? We have get collections and it uses the use case directly. That's not going to happen. We can't be using use cases we shouldn't be using anything from application. We could, but we shouldn't. That was the rule. We can use application. We can even use from entities because there are errors, but not use cases directly, because use cases do not validate input. And if you use them directly, well, it's your fault if something happens, you know? So yeah, we need to refactor. We need to create a new controller, create collection. Well, let's just say get collections.controller.ts, right? And just like this one, we have an input any. I guess it's okay to use any in this case. Let's just, let's just say that it's okay. Let's see. There's an interesting one. I might be overthinking this, but should the create link or create collection use case actually return anything to front end? It shouldn't. Shouldn't the front end just pull collections and links from its own? What do you mean? From its own use case? We're gonna create a controller now. We're gonna refactor this into a controller, which is going to be like the get collections or get own collections, like give me my own collection so that I can populate the table. But it is going to be a controller that will invoke into this page. So these get collections will basically be populating that page. This is tied to the page. And we won't be using this controller anywhere else except that page. There's controllers and presenters do that. They work with the UI, right? So do we need to change the name a bit? Right now it's getCollections.controllers.ts, but should we change it to like get collections for table or something like that? Yeah, we're about to refactor that right now. Let's do that. Get collections table. Get collections table. I feel like it's okay to be get collections table, to be really, specific to the UI, because we're talking about the collections table here. Get collections table. Yeah, let's just go. Export async function. Get collections table. Yeah. First, we need the function, the presenter function. And the return is going to be a promise of return type of presenter. Do this like 3-4 times and you'll just, it'll be super easy. All right, we need to refactor this, right? And we need to get app collections page, basically this part out of here and into here, basically. We could, this is where we do get on collections use case. And this is where we do input validation, but there's no input at all, so there's no input validation. So we'll just do get on collection use case. This is a use case that checks for user for authentication as well. So this controller is like an authenticated controller, and then it gets all of the collections for that user, because I have a specific method inside of the repository for getting the collections for that specific user, and then we pass in the user ID, and with this we're actually this is authentication, this is authorization, and then we return the results back. So these collections are going to be passed to the presenter, and they're going to be of the type collection. Bam. All right, so now we want to return collections.map. We'll grab one collection, and then we're going to return an object that will basically do those things like fingerprint, collection dot fingerprint title collection dot title. What else is there? Oh, I can't see it from here. I have to do this. Published collection dot published, and it's okay to type these out manually because that's how you make sure that these are going to be returned. So yeah, we have title, description, published, date created, and fingerprint. That's all. Created at, and then we'll do the thingy. Where was it? Collections table. Yeah, this one. Day.js original, How do I copy this now? I don't think I've ever needed to do that. Yeah, let me bring it back because I kind of lost it. So collections table, columns, copy this, delete it, go back and then paste it. So day.js will just say collection.created at, and then apply the format. Beautiful. Okay. Fingerprint title published at and created at. Fingerprint title description published. Description, we don't have the description. Description. Collection.description. There we go. And now we'll just return presenter, and then we'll pass the collections over there. So the presenter will basically return an array of plain objects that have nothing to do with collection or stuff like that. Okay, there's the presenter. Maybe I should do this. Yeah, let's be smart. Check this out. Check this out. Export type get collections table output is gonna be the return type. You see this? Type of presenter. So that here we can say collections table output, and types should be capital, I believe. Check it out. Yeah, get collections table output should be capital. We're gonna export whatever this is, and now when we actually use it, we also have access to the type, right? I'm gonna do this again in the previous one. I'm gonna refactor this. We'll circle back. This one right here. Export type, create collection controller output is gonna be the return type of presenter, and then this one is gonna be that create collection controller output. Should we do this? Should we do this? Or should we do like output? And then alias it? Let's do that. Let's make this. This is gonna be the output. If we want to bring it in, then we'll just alias it, right? Or not. Not actually, not. Change my mind. I think it's gonna be like even I hate this. Quit again. Nuvim has been not cool to work with lately. Wait, I got into the unit tests. Source, interface, adapters, controllers, create. this one, copy it, and then this is the name. It's not going to be the output. So create collection controller output is there. And now when we actually use this here, we can say output is going to be of type create collection controller output, because we already have it. It's not a class, it's a type. And then we can say output dot fingerprint. There we go. Happy. I like this. All right, so create collection controller is completely refactored. Let's go back to the get collections table. There's a presenter, there's the get collections table output. And we actually need a controller in the name to indicate that this is a controller, and a controller in this name as well to indicate that is the output of the controller. Nice. This does that. We avoid using Next.js in the browser completely this way. Nice. So let's go back to the pages now. Collections page. I'm going to scrape this, and then I'll just say collections is going to be get collections table controller, and bring that in instead. So collections is going to be of that type. Fingerprint, title, published, created. And data receives collection data. We don't want that, right? We do not want that. Data. Why do we want to use data as a type there? Most likely because we set a key. We set a key, fingerprint, right here. And the only thing is that this tdata extends collection. So if we remove that, we'll fix this. Are we gonna fix this? Oh wait, collection columns are now using collection. Yeah, there we go. We're using collection. See, this is the, yeah. We need that type maybe split in that case. We do need it split. If it's an array of something, we export the something, not the array of something, right? That makes sense. So get collection, this should be, how do we do this then? We can't just do this. Because in this case, it's an array of that, but we want the single value, right? We want this type. Should we just like type it out? Should we type it out? Because this is collection, and then we'll just say pick of that collection, right? Something like this then. Fingerprint or title or published or created at, but it's going to be pre-formatted, or description, right? That's gonna be the type. And it's gonna be an array of that. Okay, so here's what we're gonna do. I'm gonna cut this out and I'm gonna paste it here. It's going to return. I'm gonna bring this above the presenter because that's where the type is being defined. The presenter will return the get collections table controller output, and it's gonna be an array of that. Or should we do collection row? Yeah. No. Here's what we can do. Damn it. So we are returning an array of something here, and because we use this in a table, we need the single, the single type. If we do this, it's gonna be like an array of that. If we return like one type. And now it works fine. Because this is an array of something. Then let me see. Type script array utility types. Let's see utility types. Oh, I don't see anything here. Constructor, parameters, yeah. Pick, omit, record, read only. These are not that. Can we see TypeScript extract type from array? Yeah. You think? Get element type. An element type. And we can use infer to infer that type. Okay, interesting. Hmm. I'm gonna keep this as an array. Okay, and because that's basically what the presenter returns. So this type should be true to the presenter itself. If we need to use this in the page, and we have an error in this case, get collections table controller output. Data is here. Then we have like a fingerprint thingy that doesn't exist on T data, which is, you know, and then columns as well. How's this? Oh yeah, this is a of type collection, but it's collection columns. That should be okay. But why is this? Uh-huh. Got it. Because the data is set to collections, which is this type, the one that we're returning, and the columns are with the created by, that, with the created by included. That's why columns is, that's why columns actually complain here. So we need to fix the type here. The collection should have like a picked out type, just like we did the one over here. And that's why I wanted to export it. If we export it, I guess it's fine if we use it, right? We're not breaking the dependency rule. Okay, let's actually figure it out. I'm going to import that type from interface adapters, controllers. It was the get collections table controller. It's okay if we use it here. Then we're gonna bring in the type, and we want to recreate a new type called collection row. That's going to be of that type that we just saw over here. We can use a library utility types, but I feel like we can, we can even just steal that single, value type. Let's go check out the repository, source, utility types, keys, values, read only. Maybe. I think that this one would work just fine. Yeah, let's do that then. It's gonna be the get collections table controller output 0. So collection row, yeah, there we go. And we're not talking about values, we're talking about types. So these are not gonna be like, executed so that if the output is empty, then this is gonna fail. No, it's not gonna be empty. You just use the 0 to point to that singular element. So this is gonna be collection row now. And we can remove this. And now we're happy. You see? We go back to the page. We're chill here. If we go to the data, we had the data extends here. And fingerprint will still complain. We can do that here again. We can do like a collection row equals get collections table controller output of 0. And now I can say extends collection row. And we're gonna take care of the fingerprint. There we go. Fingerprint is now recognized, so as the other ones. So this file contains no errors. This one contains no errors, and we should all be good. We should be gravy. And we are at time. Let me see. I have Docker installed. So I'm just going to do npm run dev just to make sure that, sorry, build first. So I want to build it first. Make sure, to make sure that we don't have any errors, that the app can be built. And if it can, We'll run it, we'll test it to see if the pages are being rendered correctly. There we go. So now I can do npm run. I'm gonna do start because this is going to spin up the production mode, right? And there we go. The dates are correct. These are okay. We created these like the last time, I think. And these are gonna be like pure strings now. Right, so let me just reload this. All right, try to open the collections, like the main requests. Let's see what we get from the server. Or we can even do like view page source. Do a line wrap to see what we actually get from the server. We should see the dates. What were the dates? June 12th. Yeah, look at them. They're like hard-coded values that came from them. I'm not sure you can see this, but the created add property returned an actual pre-formatted string, right? That means day.js is not being pulled. The code of day.js is not part of any of these chunks that we see here. So we can't really validate that. I think we can't really validate that because it's all minified and such. But it shouldn't be because we're not using it, right? The only place that we're using day.js is like behind now in the backend. Let's see, interface adapters. Here's the package. And we also need to refactor the links table because the links table does pretty much the same. But when we refactor the links table controller, we're going to pull day.js out of the links table as well. There we go. Yeah. Links table. So when we pull this out, links table is here. Links table is here. This is package log. This is package JSON. And then there's the interface adapters, which is on the backend. When we refactor the links table, this is, these will be removed. So there will be no day.js in React files being pulled in. Free performance. Yeah, day.js is not like the worst, definitely. It's an improvement over, what was the other one? Moment.js. I think Moment.js was like really, putting a dent on the bundle size, but we don't care now. Even if we use Moment.js, the heaviest one, we can we don't care, the actual string is being returned pre-formatted, so the browser doesn't care. It doesn't load libraries, it loads data. All right, so what do you mean why not date? Yeah, the presenter returns pre-formatted dates. That's the presenter's responsibility. So if you want it in this format, here it is. The backend decides what is going to be rendered, basically. So you might also say, like, what if we're talking about like a US representation versus the versus like a European one, where we change MDY versus DMY. In that case, I don't know. In that case, I guess like there was a toString that can also take into account the locale, I believe. Oh, why not build a date function? It's gonna be tedious to do this. Yeah. It's very easy to just use day.js, pass the string, do the format in this way, You can even do like blah, 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 this way and the dates will appear exactly like this. Let me show you. Start def, hit refresh here and look at the date created. There's gonna be like a bunch of nonsense between the year and the date. Yeah, you see that? So yeah, that's it's just easier, and if we put this on the back end, it's gonna be okay. If we're putting it on the front end, it's still gonna be okay, but we should we should like be mindful of what we are, what we're importing and what code we're shipping. All right, so this is good. We get collection stable. We didn't write tests for this, but that's all right. And let's do that next time. Next stream is gonna be on Wednesday at the same time. So we kind of, yeah, we actually figured out not collections, controllers. We figured out controllers and presenters. We see what they do. We saw the reason behind it, right? If we don't have them, then the orchestration of use cases will be inside of the framework specific parts, which we cannot test. We can unit tests. So that's why we need controllers. And for presenters, first, not to let any sensitive properties bleed out or unneeded, unnecessary, and to also get some JavaScript code out of the browser and into the server, because the server is more performant, right? So for performance and security reasons, we need presenters, and for testing and validation reasons, we need controllers. There we go. Yeah, if you do new date to string, it's not gonna be like a UI friendly. Yeah, the built-in functionality doesn't let you, format, doesn't let you bring in your own format. Datetime format. Let me actually check that. Let me actually see that. So let's say that we have a new date. We want to do to string. It's gonna look like this, and we don't want to ship this to the, show this to the browser. If we do this now, date time format. I'm actually first check it out. Intl intl date time format, because I haven't seen this one. Date is a new date, and then we can say NUS datetime format. Okay, and we can do like date styles and stuff. Yeah, this is good. We can use this, but yeah, in this case, I like it. I like that this, built-in functionality. In this case, this is, I feel like, universal. But if you were using if I was using like the slashes and the months were numbers, then I could, I'm not gonna use that here. I would need, in that case, I would need to pass in information about the user inside of the controller and pass that into the presenter. Because if we use that intl in the presenter here, that's going to get the location of the server. So if the servers are in, US, it's always going to return a US type of, let's see. Where was that? Did I close it? Yeah. Yeah, I can't, I need to pass the locale and extract it from the request and pass it through the controller and the and into the presenter in order to use this, so it can be returned like this. Yeah, but it's good that this exists. I didn't actually know that this is here. So cool. Yeah. Thanks Lofi for this. But yeah, in our case, it's really simple. We have this format which is like universal, and we don't need to execute any JavaScript at all for that part. So yeah, thank you all for watching. In the next stream, we're just going to continue refactoring controllers and formatters, doing controllers and formatters and writing unit tests, just so we can weed out any other potential, gotchas. But so far, those are the controllers, those are the formatters. I personally like them, they allow me to get all of the logic out of Next.js. So if I were to, do something about Next.js, my app would still be the same. Next.js is just UI at this point. Yeah. All right. Thanks again for tuning in. Next, I'll see you all on Wednesday at the same time, 10 a.m. Yeah. How to break things apart. That's really important. Awesome. All right, y'all. I'm gonna see you all on Wednesday. Take care.